His lips were soft, but they kissed like they knew how to ruin a woman's life. His hands were rough, but they made my skin hum like they were made just to explore me. His body was a carved masterpiece, tall, toned, and smooth like deep mahogany, and every time he looked at me with those romantic eyes, I forgot my name. I only remembered how lonely I had become. How desperate. How tired I was of pretending to be strong. I never thought missing a month's rent would lead me into his arms. I never thought the same man who knocked gently on my door to check on the plumbing would someday grip me so tightly I could barely breathe, from desire, from shame, from something dangerously close to love. But it happened. And it did not stop there. It started as a favor. A silent agreement sealed with a kiss. But it ended in betrayal, manipulation, and heartbreak that burned deeper than any eviction notice ever could. I let him in because I needed help. But I stayed, because I wanted to be needed. I thought I had power. I thought I was in control. I was wrong. This is the story of how a missed rent payment turned into the most twisted, emotional, and unforgettable experience of my life. Before I begin, I want to say a huge thank you to every single one of you who is subscribed to this channel. Your support means everything to me. To all my new and returning viewers who are yet to hit that subscribe button, I cannot wait for you to do so right now. That button is the fuel that powers this channel and keeps these real, raw stories coming. Do not forget to like, share, and most importantly, drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one of them. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. My name is Nicole. I am 35 years old, recently divorced, and living in a small rented home in Atlanta, Georgia. After the divorce, I moved into a one-bedroom place managed by a private landlord. He lived just a few streets away and handled most of the property maintenance himself. His name was Darius. He was 6'3", muscular, with deep brown skin and the kind of smile that could melt your morals. Darius had a confidence about him that made you forget he was just the man who collected your rent. There was something in the way he looked at me, like he already knew the parts of me I kept hidden. And somehow, that made him dangerous. When I first moved in, we were cordial. Nothing more. He came by once to fix the heater, and again when I complained about the front steps being loose. Each time, he stayed a little longer than necessary. Each time, he looked at me a little differently. And I started looking back. Then came August. My job at the local bookstore cut my hours, and my freelance editing gigs dried up overnight. I could not make rent. I was 2 weeks late when he finally called. I was going to stop by, he said casually. We should talk. That talk happened on a Friday. I will never forget what I wore, a loose t-shirt and cotton shorts. I was not trying to impress him. I was just tired. Tired of pretending everything was okay. He walked in without judgment in his eyes. Just curiosity. I know things are rough, he said, his voice smooth like velvet. We can work something out. I asked him what that meant, and he just smiled. Then he touched my arm. It was light. Barely a graze. But my body reacted like he had flipped a switch. I should have said no. I should have stepped back. Instead, I stood there, and let him kiss me. His mouth was warm, his breath minty and commanding. My legs wobbled when he pulled me close, and I felt every inch of his power as he pressed his chest against mine. My heart was thumping louder than reason. His hands explored me like I was something sacred. And for the first time in months, I felt wanted. We did not even make it to the bedroom. It happened right there in the living room. Clothes half on, minds lost in lust and something deeper than either of us were ready to admit. Afterwards, I sat wrapped in a throw blanket while he dressed. I will give you more time, he said. You are good. I nodded, numb, confused, thrilled, and guilty all at once. But something about the way he said you are good unsettled me. Like this had not been the first time. Like this was not going to be the last. I should have felt disgusted. I should have been ashamed. But instead, I stared at the door after he left, silently hoping he would come back. And he did. Again and again. It did not feel like a transaction anymore. It felt like an affair. He texted me late. He dropped by unexpectedly. He brought food, wine, and sometimes, nothing at all but the heat of his body. But every time he touched me, I felt like I was sinking deeper into something I could not name. I was falling. And I did not know it yet, but I was not the only one. By the end of that month, I owed him more than rent. I owed him pieces of myself I could never take back. And just when I thought I had found comfort in the arms of a man who saved me from eviction, I discovered the real cost of sleeping with Darius. The first time was supposed to be the only time. That was the lie I told myself. I thought I had some sort of moral compass left, some dignity to hold on to. But I was wrong. Completely wrong. After that night, something changed inside me. I was no longer just a woman trying to get by in a lonely house after a lonely divorce. I had become someone else. Someone I did not fully recognize, both disgusted with myself and addicted to the way he made me feel. Darius began to visit more often. Not just for checkups or maintenance excuses. He would text me, "You up? Need anything from the store? Thinking about you." It was subtle at first. But every message pulled me deeper. I convinced myself it was just comfort. After all, he never pressured me. He never demanded anything. Everything we did, I told myself, I allowed. But looking back now, I see how skillful he was. He knew exactly how to slip past my boundaries without tearing them down. He would show up with food, offer to help fix the kitchen light, or bring groceries he knew I could not afford. And each time, the tension would build until I would give in. We would touch. We would fall into each other. I would close my eyes and forget about the rent, the guilt, and the growing sense of unease. There was one night, about 2 weeks after that first time, that stays with me. It was raining. I was lying on my couch in a sweatshirt and socks, binge-watching a series I had seen 100 times. My phone buzzed. It was him. "I'm outside. Brought something sweet." I opened the door. He was soaked, his shirt clinging to his sculpted chest. He held a paper bag with 2 slices of cake and a bottle of red wine. "Thought you could use a treat," he said, eyes scanning me like he owned me already. We sat. We ate. We talked about music and movies, and then we kissed, slowly at first, then with a hunger that betrayed both our weaknesses. He picked me up and carried me to the bedroom. That night was different. He was not rushed. He took his time. He kissed my thighs, ran his hands over every inch of my skin, whispered things in my ear that made my toes curl. It was the kind of night that felt too perfect to be real. But when I woke up the next morning and found the cake box and wine bottle still on the kitchen table, it hit me. I had not paid rent. I had not even spoken about it again. Neither had he. Was this his plan? Was this how he dealt with women like me, women who were desperate, broken, lonely? I began to see the signs then. The way he walked through my house without asking. The way he looked around like he had some claim over me. The way he kissed me like a man cashing in on an agreement I never fully consented to, but also never denied. Still, I let it continue. Part of me needed him. Not for the money. Not for the rent relief. But for the way he made me forget my failure. My empty bed. My ex-husband's cold silence. The way he left me without a fight. Darius gave me attention. Desire. Control, or so I thought. It was not until one afternoon, while he was in my shower after another afternoon of twisted pleasure, that I noticed something that stopped my heart. His phone was unlocked on the nightstand. A message popped up. "She let you too? LMAO. That's 3 this year." My stomach dropped. I stared at the screen. The sender's name was Marcus, followed by a laughing emoji. I did not move. I did not scream. I just stood there, listening to the sound of the water running in my bathroom, the steam fogging up the mirrors, while a cold wave of betrayal began to crash inside me. 3 this year. I was not special. I was not even the first. I was just another woman who fell for the landlord's sweet deal. And suddenly, the wine, the cake, the messages, they all felt like tools. Not gestures. Tools of manipulation. Of silent control. I felt used. Cheap. But most of all, I felt furious. When he came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around his waist, smiling like he had conquered me, I said nothing. I just nodded, smiled back, and filed away the rage that had begun to boil in my blood. That night, when he left, I sat on my bed in silence. I had given him my body. He had taken my trust. And what I did not know yet, was that he was about to take even more. This was no longer about missed rent. This was about power. About control. And about a game I had unknowingly become a pawn in. I had started out as a tenant behind on payments. Now, I was something else. And the real story, the one you came to hear, was just beginning. The days after reading that message on Darius's phone dragged like a storm cloud over my head. My chest stayed heavy, filled with unspoken rage and shame that clung to me like wet clothes. I could not sleep. I could not eat. I could barely look at myself in the mirror without feeling like I had willingly handed over my dignity to a man who saw me as just another conquest. 3 this year. The words echoed in my head like a drumbeat. They kept me awake at night. They drowned out the sound of my own breathing. I was not in love with Darius. At least, I do not think I was. But there had been something dangerously intimate about the way he touched me. About the comfort he gave, the way his voice soothed the wounds no one else seemed to see. That made what I discovered all the more disgusting. He was a collector. A smooth operator. A man who preyed on struggling women, using his charm like a rope and his body like bait. And the worst part? I had made it easy for him. Still, I did not confront him. Not yet. I wanted to understand him. I wanted to see how far he would take it, if he would eventually drop the act and show me his true colors. I played along. Smiled when he dropped by. Let him kiss me. Let him undress me. But I never gave him the same version of myself again. I began watching. Listening. Observing his patterns. He always came by late. He never stayed the night. He never brought up the rent again. He brought gifts, always with that warm, deep voice that told me, I got you. But one afternoon changed everything. I was sitting in the kitchen sipping stale coffee when I heard a knock. I opened the door and froze. It was not Darius. It was a woman. Early 20s. Black. Pretty. Nervous. Her eyes darted around like she was not sure she should be here. Is Darius around? She asked, chewing her lower lip. I swallowed hard, masking my confusion. No. He does not live here. I rent this place from him. She looked surprised. You rent this unit too? Too? I asked, heart now pounding in my chest. She shifted awkwardly, holding a folder to her chest. Yeah. I just signed my lease for Unit B. He said he would drop by here after handling something. Unit B. There was no Unit B. This was a standalone house. What lease? I asked. She opened the folder. There it was, Darius's name and some official-looking paperwork. Her name was Sasha. You are the new tenant? I asked slowly. She smiled. Yes. He gave me a really good deal. Said he had to keep the unit off the books. Said it was his special rental, just for people he trusts. My knees went weak. I barely held myself upright. I managed to smile. Well, good luck, Sasha. She turned and walked back down the driveway, never realizing how she had just ripped the ground from beneath me. After she left, I slammed the door shut, slid down the wall, and cried. He was doing it again. The same game. The same trap. There was no Unit B. That house had one entrance. One lease. He had brought her into my home. What had he been planning? Was I supposed to be gone by then? Replaced? I could not ignore it anymore. This was not just betrayal. This was psychological warfare. I was being discarded like used furniture. I needed answers. And I needed control back. That night, when he came over smelling like cologne and confidence, I played dumb. We drank wine. I let him touch me again. I let him kiss me like he owned me. Then I asked him, casually, about his new tenants. He paused, just for a second. New tenants? You know, I said, tracing my finger up his arm. Unit B. His smile cracked, just slightly. Oh, right. That. Funny, I whispered, because this house only has one door. He stood up. The air turned heavy. You been snooping? He asked. No, I replied. She came to me. There was silence. A thick, ugly silence. He looked at me, his eyes no longer warm. You are acting crazy, Nicole. No. I am acting aware, I snapped. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. You do not want to ruin what we got over some misunderstanding. And just like that, the mask slipped. The charm faded. He leaned in close. You think I need this? You think I can't find another you tomorrow? That was the moment I saw the truth. The full truth. I was never special. Never desired for anything more than my vulnerability. I pushed him away. Get out, Darius. He hesitated, then smirked. You sure about that? Because last time I checked, you still have not paid rent. That makes things complicated. My stomach twisted. There it was. The threat. Subtle. Cold. Final. He walked out, leaving the door half open. Leaving me shattered and humiliated. But what he did not know, what he could never have guessed, was that I was not going to let him win. He had crossed a line. And if he thought Sasha was his next little secret, he had no idea what was coming next. Because now, it was my turn to play. After Darius left that night, I sat in the dark for hours. I did not cry. I did not scream. I just stared at the empty space he had walked through, letting silence soak into every bone in my body. A strange calm took over me, not the kind that comes with peace, but the kind that settles in right before a storm. I had never planned revenge before. I was the kind of woman who forgave too easily, overlooked too much, and always assumed people meant well. But Darius had flipped something inside me, something raw, something cold, something that wanted justice. He thought he had won. Thought I would stay scared, broken, and begging. He thought his charm still had a grip on me. But what he forgot is that women like me, when pushed too far, do not fall apart. We reload. Over the next few days, I did something he never expected. I played sweet. I texted him. I called him baby. I let him come over again and again, pretending like everything was normal. Like I had folded. I let him think he still had me wrapped around his finger. But what I was really doing was gathering proof. Photos. Recordings. Screenshots. I even followed him once, staying 2 cars behind as he drove out to another neighborhood. That was where I saw him walking into an apartment complex and going up to a second-floor unit. A woman opened the door in lingerie. I did not need to know her name. I already knew her role. She was his next tenant. A week later, I invited him over for wine again. I wore red lipstick and a silk robe. I looked like everything he wanted me to be, soft, submissive, sexy. He came in like he owned the place. Smirking, leaning in for a kiss, hands already wandering. But I stopped him. Tonight, I want to do something different, I said softly. His eyebrows raised. Like what? I handed him a blindfold. Trust me. He grinned. You really are something else. He sat on the couch while I tied the blindfold around his eyes, making sure it was tight. I whispered in his ear, stay right there. I have a surprise for you. I walked to the kitchen, heart pounding, not from fear, but from the thrill of what I was about to do. I picked up the manila folder I had prepared. Inside were photos of him entering different apartments. Screenshots of messages he had sent to other women. A printed-out copy of the lease agreement he gave Sasha, with his fake business name. And on top of it all? A letter from my lawyer friend stating that this entire setup could be construed as sexual coercion, fraud, and misuse of property for personal gain. I placed the folder on the coffee table right in front of him. Then, I leaned in and whispered, take off the blindfold. When he did, his smile faded instantly. He looked at the folder, then up at me. What the hell is this? This, I said calmly, is everything I need to ruin you. He picked up the folder, flipping through it. His face turned pale. You think this means anything? Oh, it means everything, I said. You prey on women who are desperate. You lure them with fake promises and cheap rent. And you use them. But not anymore. I am done being used. He stood up, his voice rising. You do not know what you are getting into. I know exactly what I am doing, I said, stepping closer. And here is the best part, I am not going to the police. I am not going to sue you. That would take too long. Instead, I made copies. Lots of copies. I have sent them to your real estate office. To your mother. To the HOA. And to Sasha. He staggered back like I had slapped him. You would not. I already did, I said, smiling. I even sent a copy to myself. You know, in case something happens to me. He looked stunned, cornered, small. I should have never trusted you, I added. I thought I needed saving. But all I needed was to remember who I was before you tried to make me forget. He looked at me one last time, and I saw it, that flicker of panic. That collapse of the confident predator into a pathetic man who finally lost control. He left without another word. And just like that, the storm passed. Weeks went by. I stopped hearing from Darius. I later found out through mutual friends that he had been dropped by his real estate firm. His licenses were under review. And he had moved out of the city. As for me? I found a new place. A new job. A new version of myself I never knew existed. I told this story not for pity, and not even for revenge. I told it because too many women suffer in silence, trapped in twisted forms of exploitation disguised as affection. If you are one of them, if you are standing in front of your own Darius, scared and unsure, just remember. You have more power than you think. And sometimes, the sweetest revenge, is taking your life back. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you, from the bottom of my heart. This was not just a confession. It was a cry for every woman who has ever felt cornered, used, and silenced. Too many of us stay quiet out of shame, fear, or heartbreak. But silence only protects the ones who hurt us. If this story hit you somewhere deep, if it reminded you of a time you were betrayed, used, or broken, I want you to know you are not alone. And you are not powerless. I want you to drop a comment right now. Tell me how this made you feel. Tell me if you have ever faced something like this. Tell me what part broke you, or what part gave you strength. Your voice could be the lifeline for someone else reading through the comments, someone trying to find the courage to walk away. And if you felt something, anything, watching this, please take a second to subscribe to this channel. Your support is not just a number. It is the fire that keeps this platform alive, that helps stories like this reach the women who need them most. Whether you are new here or returning, your click makes a difference. Every like, every share, every comment, it tells the algorithm that our stories matter. Because they do. Because you matter. And sometimes, the most powerful thing we can do is turn our pain into purpose. So subscribe. Share. Speak. And most importantly, never let anyone write your worth in rent, kisses, or lies. This is Nicole's story, but it could be any of ours. I will see you in the next one. And until then, stay strong, stay smart, and stay unapologetically you.